in my life, providentially, I did focus on the moral and spiritual foundation of my life during my formative years of like my late teens and early 20s, so that when I came out of college, I had a very solid foundation. And people ask me, this is actually a funny part of my story, that people ask me when I graduated college and I had really good grades, and I ended up having a very narrow focused degree. I started off very broad, and I was kind of jumping around from business to history to religious studies and philosophy. And then I narrowly focused on biblical exposition, which was a radical shift from where I started. And but I had really no intent of becoming a pastor or anything like that. It's just what I felt like I could study to get the most out of university education was a solid spiritual foundation. So when I graduated and I had good grades and a lot of opportunities out there in the world, people said, "What are you going to do?" Like, 'cause everyone's asking that question. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? I said, "I don't know. I think I'll become a shepherd in New Zealand." And I said that because I idealized the idea of being a shepherd. I thought a shepherd is someone who gets to spend time in nature with animals, enjoying God's creation, and can meditate a lot on ideas and things that you want to do and dreams and things like that. And I'd already been to New Zealand, and I played rugby there, and I was a moss picker there, and I thought, that's my idealized next thing that I want to get into. But as I say that, you're going, what are you talking about being a shepherd in New Zealand? Well, what I'm telling you is I envisioned the next best thing to do after getting that education was to spend time working hard, having time to meditate, and to be inspired by nature, and to enjoy a simple life, having simplicity in my life without stress. So that's what it kind of represented to me. Did I become a shepherd? No. Did I look into it? I did look into it a little bit. But I didn't become a shepherd. But it really was like the spirit in which I was going to pursue the next phase of life. So that next phase of life in my mid-20s, say to my early 30s, was an adventurous time in my life. I decided to go abroad, and so I went to all these different countries. And during this time was when I started to realize the ways of the world, the way the world works, and the kind of future I wanted. And as I met my wife and considered and became, and got married at, I can't even remember how old I was, like 26 or something like that, 27. But in that time, you start realizing I got to provide enough for a family. And then you look at what I was going to become was a teacher. And then I did become a teacher. And then I realized I'm not making enough money. How can I make more money to provide for my family and to do the things that God was putting on my heart to do? I needed more. And so one route in the Christian world is you can go to other people and raise money to go do good things in other countries that you think would be a blessing to other people. But then I thought, there's nothing wrong with that. But it's like, I don't want to rely on other people who may not have the passion and vision I have for how I want to impact the world. So that was a journey. And there was lots of up and downs, and I'm summarizing and making it short. But there was a lot of the mindset that I had at that time, I think was good. And I think I'm saying this for my kids and for you. It's like, build on your education and that foundation. Build on it some kind of idealized dream scenario of how you're going to live. And in my case, that was traveling and having the money to travel and being able to expose my family to a variety of cultures around the world. So I was able to do that, but I did it mostly on a shoestring budget. But we had a great time. We'd spend 3 months in Fiji, and we spent 3 months in Mongolia, and we did a lot of different things. I helped rebuild some houses after an earthquake in the northwest frontier province of Pakistan in the Himalayan mountains at like 15,000 feet. All these things were amazing experiences, and I felt like I was gaining wealth and riches from these experiences and the people I met. But I still had that future reality of a growing family that I needed to provide for, and what God was putting in my heart to bless others. So that's what got me spinning into the investor world. So jumping into that, the investor world, as I first experienced it, my first thought when I thought of investing was real estate. And if you guys know anything historically about real estate, after the dot-com crash of like 1999, 2002, like there was a boom in real estate pretty much everywhere, but California, Arizona, all these places were booming in real estate. And so we started thinking about investing in real estate. And because we didn't have the money to invest seriously where we lived, we took our eyes elsewhere. So we went to, outlying areas of California. We went to Hawaii. Long story short, I invested in a piece of land in Hawaii. I made a phone call to my parents and I said, look, I don't have enough money to make this investment. Would you guys help me? I've never asked you for money like this before. I think it's a great investment. And I had done, just so you know, context, the way I am as a person, I spend hours and hours, like I would work 100 hours a week to figure out how to make good investments. So me landing in Hawaii and finding this land was not just some random thing that I did. It was a ton of invested hours. So my parents had trust in my judgment. Without seeing it, they invested with me. Within a year, let me get the numbers right. I think we want to say we doubled our money, but it was somewhere in that category, right? It was quite a good gain. Not quite. It was not a double. It was like about 75%. We made 75%, but it was a lot for a deal that was land. Normally you wouldn't make that in land, but again, it was seeing the inefficiencies in the marketplace and seizing an opportunity. So we made that choice. Then the way I am, when I get passionate about something, I dive deep. So we were on the Big Island, and my partner at the time was a great man. I love him to death. He's a dear brother in the Lord and man of God, just honorable guy. He and I were on the Big Island, and we were looking for opportunities there. And we were driving from the east side back over to Kona, and I remember we literally were driving with the sunset in front of us, and we're like, you know what? I think I said it to Bud. I said, I'm tired of driving to places we don't like Stockton or different places that like we were looking at, like fixer-uppers to flip and all these other kinds of investments we were looking at. And I said, I don't want to do that anymore. I just want to invest like where we love, because I had just made really good money on a piece of land in Hawaii that I loved, but we sold it because we needed to move on to the next deal, and we literally didn't have the money to do with that property what we wanted to. But because I'd made a good decision on the land, we made money on it. So my partner, I said, look, why don't we just pray and ask God? This is the honest truth. Why don't we just pray and ask God to guide us to make investments and to do well in areas that we love? That's literally what we did. And so we literally prayed for that. So, and we believed that. We didn't just pray, then we believed it, then we acted on it, then we started going only to places that we loved. And so I started more and more going to only places close to the ocean, places close to good surf, places that I saw fundamental trends that were going to propel that area, towards future gains. So we went from there. Then we started looking in Florida. Then we started looking in Panama, Nicaragua, and I eventually ended up in Madeira. And there was a lot of research behind why I chose all these places. So when we got to those places, truth be told, like in Panama, and I have friends, my friend who owns the bar down the street, like he could tell you, he was there on a surf trip, and I told him what I was doing in Panama. I had hired a driver. I was praying and seeking unique opportunities for investment, and we were like in this remote area of Panama, and we met someone who happened to buy a 400-acre ranch, and he knew of 3 other ranches, and he said I could stay with him, and he'd take me on a donkey and show me these ranches, and I could buy a ranch. And my friends were like, dude, this is exactly what you just prayed for when I was with them in the truck. They were like, and I was like, yeah, you're right. So I should stay with this guy, even though I don't know him from Adam. I'm in the middle of nowhere in Panama. Long story short, things like that started happening. When I got to Madeira Island, I researched a ton. I knew all the reasons why Madeira would be a great investment. I got there, I loved it, and then I was going out with a realtor looking at tons of properties. None of them really were what I was looking for. I wanted oceanfront, and I felt like it was affordable, and I needed to get oceanfront. So I was surfing this famous wave there, and I looked up at the village, and I said, you know, Lord, I would love to have one of those houses right there, right on the front by the wave. And they were small, not amazing houses. And I found out later this is where the fishermen used to live in the village. And these houses, you know, it's like in that time, they wouldn't normally go on the market. They would just share the word around the village, or maybe there's a se vende sign in front of it or something like that. But long story short, I met one of the owners of one of those houses like a week later, playing guitar and sipping some wine in a bed and breakfast on the other side of that little village, and I said, oh, hey, nice to meet you. And he said, my name's Francisco. And we said, oh, where did you grow up? And he said, oh, I grew up on the other side of the village. He mentioned his small little house. He goes, but I'm selling that house, and I built this big house over on this side of the village. So, oh yeah, where's that other house at? Right in front of the wave. I said, can we see it tomorrow? He said, sure. Showed up the next day. Lo and behold, it was one of the houses I had prayed for. And I just said, okay, would you like to go to the bank? So I was already ready. I was ready to seize that exceptional opportunity. I had a Forex account set up. I had bought Euro futures contract because I also thought the Euro was going to go up, which happened. A lot of research behind that. And I was ready to go. I was ready to execute right on the spot. And obviously we had to get lawyers and the paperwork and the notary and all that stuff. But in a short amount of a couple days, boom, I was a owner of a property on Madeira Island when I'm from Northern California. And that was my first trip to Madeira Island. But a lot of research went in behind it, and I seized that opportunity, and we purchased that property.